In this video, we're going to talk about how most law firms can claim their ERTC tax credit, that's the Employee Retention Tax Credit, potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to their law firm, even if you didn't have a drop in revenue or your accountant said you don't qualify. Now, what we're talking about is the CARES Act, which is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And what that does is that provides up to $26,000 per employee, and that's up to $5,000 per employee that you had in 2020, and up to $21,000 per employee that you had in 2021. Now, these are full-time employees who work more than 30 hours a week that are W-2. 1099 and part-time employees do not qualify. Now, this is not a loan. It's not something you have to pay back. This is something that you'll actually get a check from the IRS for this, and you will receive that check within 3 to 12 months after filing. So this is really, really cool. Now, a lot of times when this program first came out, a lot of people heard about it, and then they asked their accountant, and their accountant or the payroll service said, well, yeah, it's great, but you don't qualify, unfortunately. And actually, a lot of people got a text message just like this. In fact, our business was told that we didn't qualify either because we made more money in both 2020 and 2021 than we did in 2019. And unfortunately, there's a lot of law firms that were like this as well. And come to find out that this actually wasn't true. But we didn't find this out until just last week, where we actually had an event in Marco Island, Florida. We had a lot of clients there, and we were talking to an attorney. His name's Nick, and he runs a law firm, and he was just telling us that he had just got his check for $150,000 of his ERTC money, his Employee Retention Tax Credit money. And what he told us was that he got this money, and he actually made more money in 2020 and 2021 than he did in 2019. And we're like, how is this possible? Our accountant told us that if we made more money, it wasn't possible because if you make more money, they don't give you the credit. So we reached out to another client of ours who actually handles these ERTC filings, and we asked him about this. And what he told us was pretty crazy, actually. So most of the time, what you're hearing when people tell you that you don't qualify is because they're looking at a straight line revenue drop test. And what that means is that in 2021, if revenues drop by 20% or more in any quarter compared to the same quarter in 2019 or the immediately preceding quarter, then you qualify. But if your revenues did not drop or they even increased, then you don't qualify. And the same thing for 2020. If revenues drop by 50% or more in any quarter compared to the same quarter in 2019 or the immediately preceding quarter, then you qualify. But if revenues didn't drop or you made more money, you didn't qualify. Now, that's only if you're looking at the straight line revenue drop test, which I thought this is the only way to do it. Most people think this is the only way to qualify. But what our client told us about is something called a legal causation analysis test. And this is what he told me. He said, if your business was affected by a state, federal, or local governmental order, and you were affected in several different ways, you could still claim the credit for that quarter. Now, he went on to tell me that under IRS regulations, you may qualify even if you didn't experience a drop in revenue. For example, if you had supply chain disruptions, if you had limitations on the number of people that you can have in a room or a building, if you had an inability to attend normal networking events, conferences were shut down for 2 years, if you had a limited capacity to operate, if you had an inability to work with vendors, if you had a reduction of services or goods offered to customers, if you had a reduction in hours of operation, if you delayed or canceled projects due to COVID-related disruptions, and there's many, many, many other reasons why you could potentially qualify, even if you made more money in 2020 and 2021 than you did in 2019. Now, let's talk about who qualifies. First of all, law firms qualify. That's a big thing. Law firms do qualify. So it basically affects full-time W-2 employees. Now, full-time means that they worked an average of 30 hours or more per week. 1099 and part-time employees, unfortunately, do not count. Now, even if you receive PPP money, you can qualify. It does get deducted, but you can still qualify. Now, let's talk about how much you can actually get. So our partner law firm in this, the one that we're working with on here, they have been filing these cases for 7 months now, and they've done more than 3,000 filings. Now, they are seeing an average of $16,000 per full-time W-2 employee, right? So you can start kind of calculating the math. Think about how many full-time W-2 employees you had in 2019, multiply that by 16,000, and that's kind of the average of what we're seeing here, which is pretty nuts, right? So now there's a few caveats here. So this is for businesses with 3 or more W-2 employees, must have been employed in 2019. Now, full-time full-time means more than 30 hours per week on average for the whole year. The owner of the business and family members do not count, so you want to pull them out even if they're W-2 and worked full-time. 1099 and part-time employees also don't count. Now, it could be as much as $26,000 per employee, but the average that our partner is seeing is $16,000 per full-time W-2 employee. And again, it depends on who you retained in 2020 and 2021. Now, the thing you have to understand is that time is running out. There is a time limit on this. You only have until March of 2023 to file. Now, that may sound like a long time, but IRS regulations can and do change all the time. So make sure to get this done as quickly as possible. This needs to be an absolute top priority for you. And the statute of limitations is 3 years from the quarter due. Now, here's the question. Do you want an accountant or do you want a law firm to handle this for you? Now, I'm going to tell you right now that you do not want your accountant handling this for you, and I'm going to tell you why. You want a law firm handling this for you. So an accountant, first of all, they don't understand how to get the maximum amount. Your accountant is probably the one that told you didn't qualify in the first place, right? And this goes for payroll companies as well. And the accountants are only going to use the revenue drop test. And that's why they think you don't qualify. Now, most accountants, in my experience, are just looking for a quick way to process claims at volume. My accountant has never been interested in saving me money on taxes, and I don't think my accountant will ever be interested in saving me money in taxes. They're basically just interested in filing the paperwork and moving on. It's super frustrating, to be honest with you. On top of that, they charge a large upfront fee with no guarantees whatsoever, right? So you don't want an accountant. Instead, you want a law firm. The reason you want a law firm is because a lawyer knows the law and they know how to use it to get you maximum compensation. They know how to get the credit using a combination of the legal causation analysis test that we talked about combined with the revenue drop test. And that's key, is the combination of the two, because some quarters you may qualify for one and other quarters you may qualify for the other, right? Now, the partner law firm that we have partnered with is amazing. And here's why. Because first of all, they work on a contingency fee. So you don't actually have to pay anything until you've already received your money. And once you've received your money, then you get an invoice and then you pay the contingency fee. If you don't get any money, you don't pay a dime. They work with lots and lots of different calculations. So what they do is they figure out how can we maximize the value of your employee retention tax credit. And they do a lot of different cool things there, completely legal, 100% legal, but they're going to maximize that using the best calculation for you. They've already represented over 3,000 businesses with ERTC filings, so they know exactly what they're doing. They're also seeing a 75 to 80% qualification rate, which means that they're seeing that about 75 to 80% of the businesses who come to them, who most of them were already previously told by their accountant that they are not going to qualify, they are seeing a 75 to 85% or 75 to 80% qualification rate, which is really, really cool. Now, the average, as I said, is $16,000. That's what they're seeing. They're seeing an average of $16,000 per full-time W-2 employee, which is just massive. I mean, if you have a 10 employee firm, that's $160,000 or more. It's crazy. They provide a complete audit defense free of charge. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get audited, and I don't want you to worry about getting audited. But the cool thing about this is that should you get audited, they have your back. They give you a complete audit defense free of charge should anything happen, so you don't have to worry. Now, here's the other cool thing. They provide 85% funding of the amount that you're going to get. So if you remember before, I said it can take 3 to 12 months to receive your money. But what they'll do is they'll actually advance you 85% of the money within 4 weeks. And they do it at 0% interest. So this is just a service that allows you to get paid much, much quicker. And that way you're not working at the slow hand of the federal government, which we all know moves at a snail's pace. And again, 0% interest. That's not, it doesn't cost you anything to do that. So If you're interested in having our partner firm help you with this, then you should schedule a free 30-minute interview where they're going to basically ask you all the questions that they need to know to learn about how coronavirus affected your law firm in 2020 and 2021. So all you have to do is go to smbteam.com/ERTC form and fill out the form. It's just a couple questions, and someone will reach out to you to set up your 100% free 30-minute interview where we can learn how your law firm was affected by coronavirus and if you qualify for the employee retention tax credit. Now, we typically get asked what documents are needed. So what they're going to need is IRS 941 forms from 2019, 2020, and 2021. Also going to need your payroll documents by pay period from March 2020 to September 21. And we're going to need quarterly financials from 2019 through 2021. And also, if you did PPP, the forgiveness documents from both Draw 1 and Draw 2. Now, even if you don't have all of these documents, that's no problem. Still sign up for the 30-minute interview. You don't need all these documents to do the interview. Now, the next question, you're probably wondering, is what are the contingency fees? Well, the contingency fees, if you have 15 or less W-2 employees, is 25%. If you have more than 15 W-2 employees, it's 20%. Now, again, if there's no recovery, there's no fee. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this company has been doing this since March of 2022, and they've filed over 3,000 of these filings, right? So they know how to maximize the credits. And, I understand that there's people out there who charge less, but the reality is that they're not lawyers, and they are probably the ones that told you didn't qualify in the first place. So do you really want them handling your claim? Wouldn't you want somebody who knows exactly what to do safely and legally to make sure that you're taken care of? And not only that, this also comes with a 100% free audit defense should anything happen. Not saying it will, I don't want to freak you out, but should you get audited, they will give you a 100% free audit defense. So go to smbteam.com/ERTC form and complete the short form and get your free 30-minute interview set up so that our partner law firm can reach out to you and they can learn exactly how you were affected from the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, and they can help you determine if you qualify for an employee retention tax credit. But again, you got to act fast because in March this thing goes away, but you don't want to wait until March. You want to do this as quickly as possible because the IRS is going to get backed up, and honestly, they could change at any time. So go and fill out the form and go get that ERTC tax credit.